It is that time again, my friends. Drop a Line is coming by with two, not one, but two guests tonight for our second ever double interview. I am very excited to have the author of The Other Side and the author of Remade, two of my favorite books. This is Drop a Line. And we are back. We are on tonight with not just Danielle, the author of Remade, but also Justin, the author of The Other Side, two of the coolest books I have seen on the indie market. These are two of the best creative minds I have encountered. I am so excited to have them both here tonight. How are you, my friends?
Very good.
How you doing? Me too. I was very excited to have you both, not just because I very much enjoyed our conversations the last times you were on the show, but also because it is always exciting when we can do a joint interview. This is the second time in Drop a Line's history, so thank you both for making that a possibility. So I feel like a lot of your fans are joining us this evening, but just to keep it fun, I would love for you both to introduce yourselves and say a little bit about what you do. And we'll start with ladies first. Danielle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle Novotny, author of Remade and Renown. These are sci-fi books. Working on the third one right now. And in my free time, I'm also a bit of an editor. So we'll dive into that later.
Awesome. And Justin, would you like to introduce yourself? Congratulations. That is awesome. So both of you are about to be 2 books deep in your novel series. That is something that is just so cool, especially to me, who is about to release a new novel series in December. It is just awesome to see you both living the dream and pushing through this process and continuing to add books to your resume. And there's a lot that I would love to talk about there. So. Justin, is your volume up on StreamYard, bub? Because we did change at the last second the volumes. You can turn the
try now. Can you hear me?
You sound great. You sound great to me.
On StreamYard or StreamYard.
Yeah, Andrew, just let us know if we can hear Justin on StreamYard. Just write us a little text because I can't hear anything on there. Should be good to go. So I'll talk for a minute. I am a big fan of the fantasy genre and the sci-fi genre. And the first thing I would like to ask you both is, how would you classify your book series?
Danielle, you can take this one.
Of course. So my series, I always say it's sci-fi because everyone knows the big sci-fi genre. They know, The Martian, they know anything with aliens and space travel is sci-fi. But what I've actually classified my books as are space opera. So that's a little deeper dive into the genre that focuses a bit more on kind of the interpersonal relationships. It's not so much international global travel and flying around through space. This is more of a personal journey while based in a futuristic multi-planet universe.
That is so cool, especially since one of my favorite movies of all time, Star Wars, surprise, surprise. I say that like nobody else has seen it, But seriously, one of my favorite movies of all time was actually characterized as a space opera, before, back when science fiction was a much more limited genre. And it's a perfectly valid genre that people sometimes forget about. And I love what you say about how your book challenges expectations and pushes boundaries in that way. I definitely have gotten that impression reading it. So I support that message 100%. How about you, Justin? How would you define The Other Side?
I feel like that's very difficult, just because I feel like I feel like she knows this already. It's hard to put something in a box. Like,
Yes.
of course, when I go on Amazon or when I go on, like, wherever I'm publishing, I write it off as sci-fi. That's the core element. Definitely not a dystopian. I don't know what you think of it. I'd say it's more like it has a scientific touch on one's mentality.
Yes, and I was just reading the other day, one of my favorite therapy sessions. I hope that's not too big a spoiler, but there is a therapy session. At some point in the book, there is a therapy session, more than one actually. And I was just reading through, I won't go into too many specifics, but just some of my favorite conversations you've managed to capture in your story that deal with not just the mind, but the universe, and how the mind kind of intermingles with the universe around us. These are sort of the qualities in your storytelling, both of you, that are so fascinating to me, is that you're not writing about a genre. You're not writing about kind of a broad picture of anything. You're honing in on the smaller details of what make your worlds and your characters interesting.
Yep, and to add on to that, don't worry, that wasn't a spoiler at all. That was like chapter 3, so you're fine. So I take it you're a big fan of Stefano Giroux then, because
he's definitely a character that pops off the pages. I definitely would be very interested to see how his arc resolves, for sure. And I should be there relatively soon.
I feel like you'd be the first. A lot of people hate him.
Well, I try not to be a hateful person these days. That's just me. But let's talk about like characters and story. Something I always ask the guests, and both of you have been here before, of course. So what am I telling you what I always ask the guests for? For those who might not know, what is it that drew you into writing and into writing these particular stories? Danielle,
Justin, you can go first. I did the first last time.
Yeah, I was already thinking about it. I feel like this story is very common for authors, but it's being captured in someone else's story and sometimes wanting to recreate that. Other people might have dreams. Other people, might have seen something in real life or experienced something. In my case, it started from one question. I looked at a mirror and a voice in my head asked, "Is there a world inside that mirror?" And 14 years later, here we are.
That's right. Danielle?
I just grew up reading pretty much anything. I have books upon books. I'd ask my parents for books as Christmas and birthday gifts. And like, you want nothing else? I was like, no, I want a book, please. And I kind of just got to the point where like I'd read so many books and I was starting to work in, the real world. And I just felt like I wanted to do something more than kind of work for another company. I wanted to kind of give back, especially to something that impacted me so much growing up, and it was reading. So I was like, well, what if I try to write a book of my own? My first idea has never seen the light of day. I tried writing a vampire novel, and it was bad. I'll just say that. It was very bad. I reread the first couple chapters that I wrote, and I go, oh my gosh, this is like Twilight all over again. And that ship sailed. So I'm not jumping on that bandwagon a couple of years later. But yeah. I hadn't given up on that idea that like I wanted to write something. And so I tried to push through. I tried to write a bit more just because, as authors, the more you write, the more it comes to you easily. You don't have to push to put words on a page. It just makes sense. So one night I had a super vivid dream about this girl in a place that I had no idea where she was. She was fighting these aliens and she just had no idea who she even wanted to be because she wasn't who she had been, but she wasn't sure who she was turning into. I started writing down what I dreamed about. It turned into a plot. It became, something that I didn't think I could put into one book. So here we are coming up on book 3.
Congratulations. Congratulations. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for you, Justin. The last time you two were on the show, you talked a lot about your background. You talked a lot about your inspiration for writing the first books in your series. We also spoke a bit about the writing process in general, and we can certainly revisit those subjects tonight. But I really want to know what's, since then even, what has been changing for you, if anything, as you continue to publish your series? and as you continue to just hit the page, day in and day out, how is this changing or impacting your lives?
All right.
I'll go first. Okay. It's evolved that you better your writing craft, how you want to say certain things, and you get feedback from readers. I didn't quite see enough of these characters, so you bring them out more in the next book, or you develop your settings better. So each time you put something out, you can further revise it. But even still, just after publishing books, the next part comes, how do you get people to notice them? And I think that marketing aspect has been something where I've grown a lot since the last time I was on your show, just with the types of images I'm putting up on my social medias, when I'm posting them, there's been a lot of strategy behind it. And I think that's probably the area I've grown the most since we last chatted.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Justin?
I definitely have to add the marketing aspect. That is something that's very big in being an indie author, especially since this is a field that a lot of people are afraid of. It's something that takes a lot of research, and it takes a lot of mistakes. And even when I scroll down my own Instagram, I'm like, oh my God, what happened? But in thinking about book 2, obviously it takes a lot of looking at what a lot of people say in the reviews, like, I like this. So in my head, I'm like, all right, let's keep doing that. When you put it together with it making me, the author, happy, and then add that now with the people that you're trying to bring that aren't even fans of your story. So I always have to think about people who aren't into the story. And I think that's what's made me grow, because aside from being creative in writing, now I have to be creative and sort of put my mind in the minds of others.
Absolutely. That's such a great point too. There's a aspect of this where you really are mind sharing with the audience. I'm in the stage right now where the book has been in my life for 10 years. I've been working with it with a small group for the past several years, but the market really has never seen it yet. So that's still an entire aspect of how this story is going to be historically interpreted, that even all these years later is a complete mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything that surprised either of you?
That's a good question. I think, to toot my own horn, I think my abilities with Photoshop. I used to reach out and pay a lot of people to make things for me. You'll probably see this if you visit my page, the reflection principles that build the lore of my story. And Danielle actually encouraged me, hey, why don't you try making some of these things yourself instead of paying so-and-so from Italy or wherever to make something. And it's actually made me a lot more confident in my own ability to make things for people. And and what surprises me is when people give you feedback and they're like, this looks great, this looks awesome, can you make me one? And then I'm like, really? Okay. So.
How about you, Danielle?
I think what always surprises me is what detail catches someone who hasn't seen your books or gotten into them before. It could be, posting about a broody male character that suddenly draws everyone in. If you're on Book Talk, everyone loves the spicy books or the bad boys. Things like that are absolutely trending. But sometimes you just pull in, something about your main character, some struggle that they went through, and someone's like, wow, I really connect with that. So finding different avenues, different caveats of your story that suddenly draws someone in. They're like, wait, I want to learn a bit more. That's always surprising to me. It's always new.
It is true. But I can tell you that both of you, to answer what Justin was saying as well, I can tell just talking to you both that you seem, very seasoned and very confident in yourselves. And like you've been really getting to know this profession. It really kind of emanates off of you. And I think it's so great, Justin, that you are now, creating more in-house. And I think it's great, Danielle, that you are receiving all of these surprising reactions from people, because this is why we do it, right? These are the things, the whole purpose of writing is that not only are we creating a story and a product, but it's going to bring things out of us. It's going to change us in some way. This is kind of the story of our lives, to badly quote Maya Angelou, one of my favorites. By the way, to everybody watching, I would love to let you know, welcome on Facebook, welcome on YouTube, welcome to Drop a Line. Thank you for joining us with Danielle and Justin. Please leave us questions and comments. We will answer all of them, starting with Ime. Hey, Ime, what's up? You've been on this show.
Nice.
To all of our guests who are watching right now, thank you so much. What'd you say, Justin?
No, I was commenting on Ime. Good friend of mine. Hello, Ime.
Yeah. He is asking, what are some important lessons about writing that you've learned from each other? And what comments do you have about how convo with other writers helps or hinders?
Very good question.
Should we flip a coin or?
Danielle, you can take this one.
Let's see. The biggest thing I've learned from Justin, for sure. When we first started talking, he was really into this promotional phase when he was diving into his characters. So every couple of days, he had a deep dive into his characters from Heart and Earth, reflections, and he'd give them each their own post and a fun kind of plot mystifying poem that he would write. And I just thought it was really cool how he did like such a deep dive, because my experience on like, bookish social promotion was always, the bookstagram, the pretty pictures, a bit of a summary, and having that insight that, hey, I can do like a deep dive into what Alia does or where they go. Seeing those different things kind of opened up my mind to new ways to promote my book. And I think that's definitely helped since he and I started talking.
God, that feels like it was so long ago.
Right.
I learned nothing.
What's that?
No, I'm just kidding. No, let's see. So to throw Danielle in the spotlight for editing, when she first, the thing is, we only met because she was a part of an organization called the Quintillion Reads, and I sent each of them a free book, including Danielle at the time, and she read the book, said what she thought about it, and then later when we actually got to know each other, let me know, hey, I saw some things in here, like a few comma misuses and things like that, little tiny nicks, and she offered to help fix some of them, and I was like, sure. How much do you want? And she's like, don't worry about it. I'm like, what? And upon doing this,
that is so cool.
Yeah,
that pierced me right in the heart. Go ahead, Justin.
The best thing about this is like when she did this, she didn't just share like this is what you can do to make this flow better, but she actually like helped me cut down in word usage. She was talking about her character Alia. It's a first-person story that walks you through someone else's struggle. That's about the same of mine too. So who better to tell me, hey, this is what you can do to help convey this message better than someone who's also writing this kind of series. So with Danielle, what I like about this partnership, so to speak, is that she's the first creative partner that actually shares things that can help make my story better, and it's awesome that I can do, or to know that I can do the same for her.
Thanks.
Absolutely, and you two are such a power couple in that way, and it's very, very inspiring. And so that's why it's just so cool to have you both here at the same time. I love it. I've been excited about this all week long. It's terrific. Do you have any questions for myself or the audience, or anything that you are dying to touch upon? You want to say, hey?
Where is everyone? That's my question. Where are my friends? Where are friends?
Yes, where are you? Justin's friends, where are you? Join us. Join us on Drop a Line.
My friend is here. Let's see. And I'll tell you what. Let's see. Oh God, I think I broke my phone.
You are good. We got a great response on Instagram. Thank you everybody for being here. We've got viewers on Facebook. We got the viewers still rolling in. This is awesome. This is great. I always like to give people the option to ask a question or to do a bit of marketing that maybe I wouldn't think to ask about.
What I'll ask you is, your book is coming out in December?
Yes, sir. It's coming out on December 5th.
is this a part of the Barker series already, or is this its own thing?
No, this is the beginning of a new series. I was working on a series before I came up with the Meridian, which is what Barker is a part of. And the Meridian novels, the Barker's Rules was originally published in 2017, but it was taken off the market after a contract ended, and it was put back up in 2020. So there's a little bit of a complicated history to the Meridian series, and we are going to bring it back in time. But in the meantime, a series that I have always dreamed of writing since I was 18 years old, I guess that's not always, called The Calipar, is hitting the market for the first time on December 5th. And it is actually being co-authored by myself and my fiance, Carrie, who, in addition to editing, created some original content for the story as well, a couple of scenes of her own. So we are partnering up and putting both our names on it, and it is just going to be a time to celebrate. So
congrats. I'm happy for you two.
Thank you so much. So much. And yeah, no, so that's going to be an exciting time in December, but it's really inspiring to talk to the two of you and to see how you work together, and just to see you pushing through these series. It's fantastic. And I guess Carrie would usually be talking with everybody, but she's packing because she's got a lot of packing to do before she uproots her life to marry this guy that is kind of questionable, I think. So, but she can trust her own judgment. Ariel has a question. My question is, how do you both plan out your series? Great question.
All right, so Danielle, do you want to bring out your binder?
No, it's too big. I have a binder about this thick of all the note taking that I do. When I first start planning a book, I do a really bare bones outline, and it's almost laughable. The scale of outline I did for book 3, it's like 3 little sticky notes with like teeny tiny handwriting, but I went and I hit the main points that I want to cover in my book. So, you know, the opening, why do they get there, all those things. And then from there, I'll take a deeper dive down and actually start writing out lines, you know, that I want in the book. I'll cover, you know, chapters, things like that, varying depth as well. Sometimes I'll put a line in the outline that goes directly into the book, but I have at least 2 stages of outlines that I do per book that get longer and longer as I get into it.
The best thing about her notes is that when you read the book, you see that they haven't really changed at all. The content's the same, it's just the context. That's right. Part.
That's right. I found that to be true as well. I've outlined the series for the past 10 years, and I joke with Andrew, who before I met Carrie was my talking partner for years and years and years. And I joke with him about how, as far as he knows, there's 21 different alternate universes to the same story. And yet I have also been telling him recently that as it takes shape, I'm like, the character arcs really haven't changed though. After all that outlining, they really don't change. Like, it's actually pretty on point to where we started, despite all this tinkering.
And to piggyback off that, you know, I feel like everyone knows what they want their story to be. Because to go into my process with editing, I have everything planned out. Like, I have all 13 books with every single thing that I want to happen. But the thing is, as I mature over the years, I find that I go back and I'm like, oh, this is a rather childish idea. So I'll go back and edit and edit and edit until I find that I'm at an equal level of maturity with where I want that story to be, and then that's when I publish.
Love it, love it, love it. Ime says, can you talk more about the idea of evolving context while the content stays the same? Oh yeah, so can we keep talking about this?
Yes. Evolving context.
Yeah, and I would
for mine, you know, I always knew that my opening scene in book 1 is my main character gets into a car crash. Spoiler alert, chapter 1. But evolving it was kind of adding the details that make it, you know, just make more sense. How detailed can I get it so that the reader actually feels like she's right there? Since I tell this in first person, you know, what are the horrifying details of, oh my gosh, my car's skidding, like I'm really close to something else, like what am I gonna do? And strengthening those details and the wording that you use that are just fills out the scene. You know what you want to say, it's how you're saying it.
Great notes, guys. Great notes. Great notes. And to continue, do you find that characters ever come and go, or for the most part, do you work with the same characters without changing that much?
Justin's always introducing characters. His character list is so long.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. That's the thing. Like, you know, when I was first getting each of my characters commissioned, you know, drawn, I always considered the reflection, and you can find that on my page. Like, for every character, there's another person. And then as I got to, like, I don't know, character 64, I'm sitting here and I'm like, we don't need to know this person's reflection. I mean, we can leave that to the reader's imagination based on what they know about a character. Now, if they're relevant to the story, then we can, you know, flesh out that context with little breadcrumbs and things of that nature. But, you know, you don't need to see them.
Right. How about you, Danielle?
I rotate through, but that's purely for the plot.
See, the reason I ask is because as I spend time note-taking, now that we're in the process of creating the series, I find that sometimes there are ways in which different note-taking fills out the world in ways that I don't even know until I'm taking it. And one of those ways is considering other characters that the main characters know, or relationships or relatives that I hadn't thought of before. Like, as you know, like for me, sometimes just thinking about more people surrounding the main characters can turn into talking about what city they're from and talking about where they've traveled. And all of a sudden, all these things are happening to fill out the world. How do the two of you fill out your worlds typically?
It was, for me, it was more like on a need basis. Like, I can't introduce the idea of a reflecting world without that reflecting person. But I had to think to myself, why do we need to meet this reflection? So, do they serve an integral part of a story? Oh, is the reflection, you know, like, is there a lore, or is there a device that you use to explain your lore that the characters can be based off of to entice people? That was my biggest thing with book one. And I think with my second book, what I don't need to do anymore is use characters for that purpose, and instead have it so that the world plays around all these people that already exist.
Danielle?
A lot of mine do exist to serve functions, because this is kind of a sci-fi with some, you know, army aspects. I have, you know, the Nova Squad is my big group, and they are part of the galaxy's forces who defeat evil. But within this Nova Squad and other groups that I create later, each person kind of plays a role. So we have, you know, the co-pilot, we have the technicians, we have the brawn who'll go in first, you know, guns blazing. But I still fill out enough of their characters so that that's not just all they are. You know, the tough guy has a bit of a soft spot once he gets to know Alia, and vice versa. So they serve functions, but then they also come together as like a cohesive family unit.
That is awesome. Those are like great stories too. Like, I love stories that can really just leap off the page and just resonate with our real lives, you know, like the things that really matter to us. I think that both of you have that going for you very strongly in both of your stories. And I love the way, Danielle, you know, your story begins with just this accident that is such a sudden change. You know, like many people have told me a story should begin at the point of change. And it's such an earth-shattering, painful, truly painful change. And Justin, I love how your story deals with a painful incident that is repeatedly referenced back to and continues to be this stigmatizing force in the characters' lives as they proceed through the many obstacles in the story. Like, I love the way your stories both kind of really challenge us and make us a little bit uncomfortable in that sense so that we can be invested.
I appreciate that.
I think that was probably one of the best reviews I got was a friend, Erica, you know her.
Uh-huh.
She read the book and she goes, "This was so good because my main character deals with handling personal change. After her accident, she is healed, but in being healed, she gets altered. And for a good bit of the book, I have her kind of mentally fighting against it. She doesn't want to accept that she's different now. She wants to go back to her normal life and fly under the radar. But so much of that kind of personal acceptance and finding your way in the world resonated with this one reader that she was just like, wow, like I kind of stepped back and thought about like, is this really where I want to be? Like, is this how good I'm feeling? And that was just so awesome for me to hear because that was the story I wanted to tell. It like perfectly hit her.
And Justin?
I would say. Sorry, what was the question again? I want to make sure.
I was commenting on how I like the way your story takes us into the painful experience that the main characters are trying to come back from prior to the first chapter, and how that drives the story and kind of allows us to feel for them.
I think the most interesting part about that for me is how do I keep that going in everyone else that's coming into the picture? A lot of people will argue that, in fact, if you look at the front cover, you'll see there are two people. So a lot of people think, perfect. Limited edition, very nice. Wonder where you got that. But a lot of people argue, the other side one is really supposed to be just about Leon, which it is. But the theme of the other side one, and especially two, is the idea of two stories coming together to make one. So the question for me has been, or the question to myself has been, how can I expand on not only the character that I've gotten you to be with, not like, and sort of widen that scope so that I can focus on the reflections and show how life goes around these people. Because I have to use that to play into the world and now also their mentalities as well, using the traumatic incident that you're referencing.
Absolutely. That's fair, and it's great to have that insight into the read as well. That's why it's fun to talk to the author. All right, I've been ignoring two questions here. Ariel asked, "What's one aspect of your story that you were willing to completely change to keep it in your story?" Great question.
I don't think I'd change something, but I definitely expanded on something that I really only hinted at when I first wrote Remade. And my sister's on the show, so she knows because she suggested this, but she wanted more interaction between Alia and the guy she ends up falling for a bit. And she's like, you hint at it, but there's not enough. And I was like, oh, I thought it was good. Like, so she actually suggested like a couple places where I could just add entirely new scenes. And I was like, oh, you're right. This like makes so much sense. I can build this out, create a lot more, romantic tension between them. So that way we feel even more connected to them. Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, great feedback. Wonderful. What you think, Justin?
And to go off that too, one of the scenes that Lauren actually suggested is one of my favorite.
There you go.
That's true.
Awesome.
I
love it.
That one a lot.
All right. Lauren, you are the star of the show tonight. Thank you for your awesome suggestions. Justin, do you have a response for Ariel?
To be honest, I kind of kept everything the same. For the most part, I might have changed character names. I might have changed what they did. For example, there's one really pivotal character in book 2. Think Gray Jacket Danielle. I was gonna kill this character off at a certain part of the book, and then I was like, but he feels like he has so much more depth to him. What if there's more that we can do? And I feel like this has allowed me to now have the antagonist that you familiarize yourself with in book 1, the protagonist, and now you have this middleman who's sort of playing the two sides, and it not killing him off, which is something I really don't like doing. It has actually allowed the story to become a lot more dense, in my opinion. Not dense.
And conversely, you had a character that you were keeping along, and then you decided to do something else interesting with him to make his story a little more exciting.
And he, oh my God, I cannot wait. And I'll say this, the friend that knows that character is based off of them, name and all, I think he'll like it. I think he'll be happy. It'll be very interesting, but yes.
Excellent. I love your answers. This is great. By the way, the show usually goes until about 45 minutes, but because we have 2 people tonight, we're going to push it a tiny bit longer than that. Not too long, but a little bit longer. So we're going to make sure that both of you get the full effect. How often do you feel it, when building on context, how often do you feel it's to strengthen characters versus strengthening the plot? Between character and plot, which do you prioritize and why? That's from Ime.
For me personally, I try to take the world first, and then I try to put the characters in it. But, you know, obviously as I keep going on, I'll put it this way, the principles are pretty staple in my book. I can't change anything in the series. So all I can really do is just arrange everybody in a way so that, let's say this, in book 1, we focused on reflection principle 1 to 5. Those are like really crucial things. And then as the books go on, we keep going down the, the bits of lore that I've made, and you can kind of see how these pieces work against them. So for me, it's the world first, then the characters.
I'd probably say about the same. You know, you build out your plot first, you know what you want to say, how things are going to go. And then the depth comes when you attach the character to it, really. So like I said, my main character has a lot of inner conflict, and I build her out a lot more by diving into the chaotic thoughts that are going through her head, like, how can I get out of this, or should I just go with it? Building her out that way strengthens the scene overall because it just makes more sense. It adds a bit of urgency to things, or you just get to know her better, so you kind of sympathize.
Yes. Ooh, I love it. Speaking of sympathizing, how many personal elements do you find yourselves putting into your books? That is from Lauren Novotny.
Thanks, Lauren.
That's hilarious.
Well, she knows my answer already. My main character is pretty based off myself. Since I had my original ideas as like a first-person dream, it was so easy to keep building it off of what would I do, how would I react. And when my parents read the first chapter of my book, without knowing really what the plot was, they're like, this character's you, isn't it? There's a girl, she's rushing around, she doesn't like being late, she likes coffee. They're like, it's you. There's no hiding that. So it was easy to just write something so kind of personal by basing it off myself.
Justin?
And then in my case, how well can you see this?
Love it.
All right. This is the second book cover. So what's funny for Danielle is that as we got to know each other, she was like, how many parts of you are in this book? So in my case, if you can see the main character here, Leon, I put, let's say, my teenage selves in this book. I mean, we don't change that much growing up, obviously, but the cores of myself are still there. So you have the main character who is stubborn, which is it was a very big quality when I was younger. Then you have another character who's more cold. He can be cynical at times. Another character who's very serious. I don't know if you've met him yet, so I don't know if I can say his name. Curly hair, orange. Wears orange a lot? Okay, I can't say it yet. And then we have another character who is his reflection, who's this guy up here. Very goofy, easygoing. And then there's a fifth character who I imagined is an ideal version of myself. So you can, or a version of myself that I would like to be, that everyone would like to be, in terms of supernatural abilities, or even, in terms of how one carries themselves. So I'd say all 5 of 5 main parts of myself are in these 5 people. And then as for the rest of the characters, they're either, they came from, let's say, people watching, like we all do, or they're just little things I've added into them based on what I see in society.
I'll just tell you that the veil that Justin put himself in his book really fell when I read a scene from book 2 involving seafood. The detail he went into describing what people ordered was so intense. I was like, "You love seafood, don't you? Like this makes sense."
and the way that one character was heartbroken when he found out other people didn't like it. That's how I felt when I found out you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Sad.
How's he going to react to me being vegan?
I think I'm about to leave the stream.
I know. I think he is. I think that is totally great. That I love your answers to both. And Justin, I feel like if anybody ever handed you one of those prompts where it's like describe your professional self, your inner self, the self you aspire to be, you could literally just hold up your copy of The Other Side and be like, I can give you this. Because I need readers,
To be honest, that's actually how I got a lot of jobs. They're like, tell me about yourself. And I always bring my book in like a briefcase. And they're like, oh my God, I published a book. So
that is awesome. I've actually never heard anybody tell me that. That is so cool. Good for you. You hear that, authors of the world? Bring your book.
Don't be afraid to list it on your resume. Absolutely. I've gotten a couple of people who are like, I've never interviewed an author before. And I was just like, I mean, we're not like uncommon, but no one thinks that their professional experience can involve like writing and promoting a book, but it's a lot. Like it's about communication, it's promotion. Yeah. Those are things employers do look for.
Mm-hmm. And they get to see that you're committed, because our books are, they're the average or above the average length, 350 pages. They'll see that and they'll be like, oh my God, you love this thing. Okay, let's have you work for us. Let's see what you can do.
That is awesome. Yeah, you're the first 2 people to really tell me that. That is so cool. Yeah, no. Do you want to? Is there any more to expand upon there for the audience? I think they might find that really interesting. Do you have any tips or tricks for how to bring up the subject in an interview? Like, is there a strategic way to do it? Or are there any signs that
really? I mean, it really is. You shouldn't be afraid to list that you are an author. If you write that you have experience planning and writing a book or a book series, it lets them know that you are organized, you have ideas. If you promote it on certain places and you want to work in like marketing or social media, say that. They'll look at what you do. Definitely don't be afraid to shut down an employer who insults that experience. I know firsthand. That was great. I had a guy tell me that authors really wouldn't be salespeople because don't you sit behind a computer and write all day? And it took all my focus not to just like walk out at that moment. I was like, no, we have to promote our books and talk about our books and socialize with other authors. It was interesting.
You have to promote your books when you work for a publisher. That is an experience that I have had.
Yeah.
You don't get away from it.
The publishing world puts a hefty amount of work on the author in addition to writing. And the deals that you make more often than not are netting you the least amount of money. In some cases, maybe not all cases, but in some cases, and watch out for this if you come across it, netting the least for doing the most.
Oh yeah. That's the thing about them. There are a lot of companies that bring in a lot of elders, especially because obviously everyone wants to be published. So they'll either not know that being an indie author is a thing, and they'll fall into these things. And a lot of them, promote you for, let's say, the first year or 2, and then in the contract it's like, all right, good luck. That's it. And I feel like no matter what, whether or not you're a traditional author or indie, you're gonna have to learn how to market at some point. So
yeah. This is just great. I'm loving this conversation. I never want it to end. I really do. What made you include mental health in your book? That's from Ariel.
Well, technically that's both of us, but I will take this because this is a very prominent theme in my story. Yes. I'd say a lot of personal experience for me. The first thing I say, in fact, in the first 5 pages of my stories, I have like a little disclaimer that basically says, these are based off of my experiences. I don't claim to have anything. I've never, first of all, it's never just, okay, so similar to the story, it's never disrupted my life in a way where these things had to be flagged. But I cannot deny that the whole series was born because a voice in my head asked me, is there Jesus, I'm speaking too fast. Is there a reflecting world in the mirror? And there are some characters in this story, actually, well, one for now, let's say, the one with curly hair that I can't spoil. From time to time, he'll hear 2 voices in his head. And Danielle had so much fun editing this. On the left side of the page, you'll see one voice saying one thing. Like let's say this character just picked up this remote. That voice will say, you should have turned it to the right when you put it down. Then and that's representing what he's hearing in his left ear, so to speak. On the right side of the page, you'll see what the other voice is saying. No, you should have turned it to the right. And then it just carries on that way. Then somewhere in the middle, you have the character now responding, can you guys just shut up? And that's kind of what made me put it into the story. I was like, how can we take the concept of a voice, something that people on the outside might think, oh my God, you're crazy for that. Okay, but what if this voice actually came from a reflecting world? That's what made me make it a prominent theme, while also finding myself.
Amazing. Danielle, do you want to answer?
I don't dive as deeply as Justin does into certain things, but I mean, everyone faces, confusion or a personal journey. And it's easy to put that in a fictional setting and have them resolve it because, they can punch their way through villains or, travel to a different place that accepts them. But it's still finding that the outlet for how do you cope with this, as well as kind of come up with your own way to overcome it.
Yes. Ooh, I love it. I have a couple of pop culture questions to ask each of you. I've been trying not to all night, but I can't resist. Danielle, this might be a bit of a sensitive subject, but if you'll permit me, what role has Tony Stark played in the development of your craft?
Why would you do that to me, man?
I couldn't resist.
I refuse to go back and watch the Marvel movies now because of that. I hope you know. I'm so upset.
I do know. I remember we talked about it last time.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
wait.
I've always... Go ahead.
What happened?
No, Justin doesn't do.
Oh dear. Okay. Nothing happened. Literally nothing happened.
He buys a new
Without
suit.
spoiling things, I'll say that.
Okay.
It's a terrible, terrible suit. It ruined the whole series for us. So yeah.
Doesn't it?
I mean, I've always loved like the sassy, snarky characters. Iron Man, of course. And I do incorporate lines like that for my main character. I have her making little quips. I have sassy comments. So it's definitely just another character I connect to. Thanks.
Justin, I have one for you as well. Would you rather work, and you have to choose, would you rather work for Shinra or Avalanche?
Both.
No, I said you had to pick one.
Probably Avalanche. I guess that would be a very defining quality of myself, which is sort of rebellion. So
Yes.
a part of being an indie author is sort of rebelling against the status quo. You must get traditionally published to succeed. So I'd probably be a part of Avalanche. Danielle, these are Final Fantasy VII references. You'll get these in a couple weeks.
I get it a little bit. We've seen them.
She gets it. Oh my God. She gets it.
Justin, the last 2 times you were on the show, we delved a little bit into how things like Final Fantasy VII and Dragon Ball Z, for instance, inspired you young. Is there anything you'd like to say about that tonight?
To be honest, waiting for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, that's a very long title, but it's anime.
Yep.
But I'd like to, honestly, it's still inside me that, that's what inspired me to write in the first place, playing that game at like 4 years old. I still remember walking out into the open world of Final Fantasy VII and thinking, I have to do this for someone one day with toys. And I started small. I started drawing. I started doing everything you could think of. And even to this day, when I'm writing scenes, I still listen to the music. If I drive, let's say going to the store, I'll play the main theme. Like, it's still a part of me. So I try to keep that magic alive because this is the very thing that inspired me to write in the first place. And I feel like you might agree with this. I know Danielle definitely will. But how many third installments of a movie or series has failed because, let's say, you feel that the soul of the story is gone. They lost what it was that inspired them. So I try to remind myself every day, hey, this is what inspired you. Don't forget the feelings that you felt. And I put that into my stories.
That is so good. That is a gem of advice, because I don't know how either of you feel about the Godfather movies.
Never saw it.
Somewhat, but anyway, but to spoil it for everybody, and I'll keep this abrupt. The third movie is considered not great. The first two movies were made 2 years apart in the 70s. The third movie was made in the 80s, years and years later, and it was about aged versions of the characters. It was meant to star. The talk around the town was that it was literally just done for money, and there was evidence of that all over the quality of the story. But get this, it was meant to star Al Pacino and Robert Duvall, who were lead characters in the first two movies. Robert Duvall actually didn't sign on to the movie because he says he knew it was just about money, and because he didn't like his paycheck very much, he said, what's the point? If they're not going to pay me what I want and it's not being done for the sake of craft, what do I want to commit to this for? Imagine that. They lost the cost of their loss of passion was the loss of one of their key characters.
And that's something that I respect Pixar for, because they say they accept with Toy Story 3. They'll say they won't agree to making another movie with Disney. Disney will say, hey, you need to make another movie, put songs in it. And they'll say, I'm not doing it if there's no story, except for Toy Story 3. But yes, most of the time. They stick to their theme. They know what worked, but they're not going to do it just to get cash. And that's what I like about them.
Yeah, that's commendable for sure. Did you just say drawing? Show us your drawings. Ariel is the man.
You want to see my drawings?
She wants to see them. I want to see them too.
All right. Listen, Danielle, keep them busy. I actually have some. This is going to be fun.
There you go. That's
I'm going to show you before and after.
You should have just shown them your wall. Justin does draw out his scenes, his settings, God. And I love getting those random messages. He's like, did you see this? I was like, first of all, what am I looking at?
Yeah, right, exactly. What is this?
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, so hold on. Before we look at this, I'm going to put some context in it. So this is my first book cover, right? Look at how well that was drawn. That was by my good friend. Book 2. Ready? Here's book 3. Look at these stickers. Look at the detail in the hair. Ariel, I hope you're taking notes. Look, someone's supposed to be standing here. There's supposed to be a mask here, but look at how much
the
detail is...
two-dimensional 3.
Look, okay, so see this orb? That's that right here. Orbs. Oh my God. So good. How do I do it? I swear to God. Oh, let's not look at this. Oh boy. Okay. See? I'm too good for this.
You are for sure.
Oh.
In fact, that was so good we couldn't show it on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. You guys will have to check the exclusive Instagram footage for that, because you definitely want to see that. So, oh man, yes, Lauren is asking Picasso ? So yes,
correct.
Hey, I have one that I could. No, that's too far away. It's in another room. It's a whole other room. So, but it's the same for me. Like, I have an artist now, Cameron Coates, who is doing such phenomenal work for me. Ariel did work for me as well. Thank you, Ariel. Ariel is great to work with. Everybody go commission her right now. She's great. Best person, best artist. Go get her. Anyway, not go get her. Go work with her. What I'm talking. But yeah, like, that's how it is for me. Like, I create these little stick drawings, and then I I try to describe what's supposed to be here, and there, and then I just give them up to a digital artist, and they just kind of bring my world to life. It's amazing to look at. And I know we kind of touched upon that a bit earlier with you starting to do your stuff in-house, but Like, have you had the experience of seeing your work come alive, and how did that affect you?
Oh, all the time. In fact, for me, I'm very visual. This is something I have recently come to accept more and more as I was working with book 2, because I feel like some of my weakest characters in book 1 who really come to life in 2 are ones that I had never physically seen. So my antagonists, when I saw them in my head, I honestly saw, and I'm being 100% honest, dark suits with question marks. I honestly had to draw them and put them out on paper in front of me so I could see them as best as I could. And it really wasn't until I commissioned them, then I was like, oh my God, I can hear them. And the best part about this is that since I hired those voice actors to do work for me, hearing them also made the experience a lot more alive. And I think it actually helped me become a better writer in a way. I feel like everyone has their own niche. Like Danielle's very, she loves, obviously she's been reading most of her life, but me being the gamer, I need to see it. So that's how that's helped me.
Danielle?
Yeah, like Justin said, I've never tried to draw a character, commissioned art. A lot of what I draw on is what I see and what I'm familiar with. So I actually have Pinterest boards for books 1 and 2 of just imagery that resonates with me. And this is the outfit I wanted someone to wear. This is where I wanted the location to resemble. So I think the only type of creation that I've done is for my covers, which I have designed. And Justin heard the story about how I made book 1s.
She did this on Microsoft PowerPoint. That's not easy. You know how much patience.
This is before I found Photoshop.
I do.
PowerPoint.
That is amazing. That is amazing, Dan. Listen, if you had never told me that, I never would have known, because honestly, it looks like such a solid book cover. Like, let me look at my copy. Like, I can't even see it. I tried to see if I could see it. I can't see it. This looks like it was made by a professional software or a digital software, Microsoft. That is fantastic work. Danielle Novotny made this on PowerPoint, everybody. I want the whole world to know. Look at this. Isn't that great? Wow. You two are so talented. I can't even stand it. Listen, we've been talking for about an hour now. This is a bit of an extended show, so we will start to wrap it up soonish. Around this time, I always like to ask, is there anything we failed to touch upon that you would like touched upon? And do you have any questions or comments?
Well, book 2 is coming out very soon. Mm-hmm. So all I can really say is this: keep an eye on the Instagram, or my Instagram. I'm going to try to reveal a few things that are driving elements with book 2, and this is that challenge I was telling you about. I have to think about everyone who hasn't been in the story, so visit the page, try to read up on the war, and I will do my best to keep you entertained.
Awesome. Danielle?
I'm a little further away from releasing book 3. That's more of a later fall event for me. But, in the meantime, I'm editors for Maria Ashen, who you had a couple weeks ago. Her book, The Only Series, just came out. Super honored to work with her on her series.
Congrats,
and then
Maria.
Partnering with Justin on his series. So those are my three book projects right now. Got a lot going on.
You do have a lot going on, but you both handle it all with grace, and you turn out such great work. I really am just so excited to continue reading your work, and I cannot wait to post my reviews. That should be coming any day now. So definitely everybody buy and review the authors that you like. We need reviews. We need readers. We love you. Thank you for being our readers. Speaking of reading, would anybody like to read? You don't have to. I know I put you on the spot, but if anybody would like to read a little segment for a couple minute segment, that offer is available to both of you.
I've got some time.
Go for it.
All right.
All right, let's see.
We are about to get an excerpt from The Other Side, everybody. If you would like to stay in your comfort zone, you better sign off now, because we are going to the other side.
So the only issue with this is that I have to keep in mind that... Oh, you know what? No. I know what to do. I will accommodate everyone here. I will... To avoid spoilers, I will do a reading from book 1, just the first couple lines, nothing big. Let's see.
Time usually allows
right.
for 1 to 2 pages if you want to do that.
That's okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, this is the foreword. All right. Here we go. Okay. All right. You guys ready?
Ready.
Here's to your future, Aaron and Nora. If you're reading this, then chances are my other and I are long gone. However, that does not mean that everything we have gone through will go to waste. These journals will elucidate how Earth and Heart arrived at their final days. With my writing, you will see and listen to my story as I watch it unfold once again. You too will become the burgeoning force that saves the universe. The most I can do to aid you is to tell you about what you can use to create your destiny for all of time. The lies began when I, Leon Grantley, was 15 years old, enrolled in that terrible facility. During those early days, I was diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. Some may still call it split personality, but the terms have changed. I've had it for what seems like forever now. It's nothing to be afraid of, don't worry. It just means that on occasion, I would switch to another person's identity, essentially becoming someone else. Imagine going to sleep for a day or two, then after finally waking up, family and friends tell you about events. Thank you, Lene. Tell you about events that your body was present for, but not your mind. Someone else was there. To cope with this, I was forcefully enrolled in an institution known as the Earthshine Facility. In this establishment, they had 3 ranks: pawns, bishops, and knights being the highest. Apparently, I've done many things that I don't recall doing. People look at me differently. They flinch when I raise my voice. Their eyes are dishonest. They lie about their feelings to protect me. Not a single soul could tell me about what the ranks meant. Not my parents, the therapists, or even my fellow patients. It was our first of many mistakes to come. And that is by the main character of the story, and what I try to set for everyone there is, this is not a story that has anything happy inside. Danielle knows this very well. This is a story with brutal realism to tell you that things just get worse. And book 2 is going to play on that even more.
There you go. There you go. Hey, if Game of Thrones can do it and mess up their ending, then so can you. I'm just kidding. I'm just totally kidding. Yeah. You are not going to mess up your ending. This is going to be an awesome series because we all know that Justin is pouring 100% of his passion and creative vision into it. That's what's so great about books by the same author and team. Am I right?
Of course.
So, how about you, Danielle? Would you like to? Justin, thank you for reading for us. Danielle, would you like to read?
Sure. I'll do a little bit out of mine because I don't want to go into book 2, but this is close to the beginning when Alia wakes up after her accident. His head dipped and a melancholy expression crossed his face. Saving you wasn't easy. I had to greatly modify your body with the technologies we have, technologies that Terra couldn't begin to imagine. The things you should be able to do now, they go beyond what a normal Terran can do. It wouldn't be safe for you or for them if you were returned to Earth. My chest tightened and I couldn't form words anymore. He had changed me, and because of that, I couldn't go home ever. What had I done? All this was a result of my frantic rush that morning. I briefly wondered how many days had passed since the accident, but I pushed that aside for the time being. My stupid, panicked driving caused me to get into an accident where I should have died. By now, everything I loved was gone. My home, my family, my friends, my job, and I had no idea what I really was anymore. I hated myself. The realization set off a flood of tears. I was so foolish for an instant, and it had cost me everything. I continued to sob for several minutes. Although he was a monster for taking everything away from me, Dr. Givray patiently waited through the worst of my tears without speaking. When I had finally calmed down enough to form a coherent thought, I looked at him with a question. So what now? I was surprised to hear so much malice in my voice. I'm good.
Foreshadowing, but yes, I love it.
Beautiful. I absolutely love both of those segments. And that is pretty much all the time we have for this evening. How do you two feel about being here?
It was great. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. This was great.
It's always great to have you. And it's been not the first time for either of you. So please do know that you can come back anytime. Folks who are watching, if you would like to schedule your interview, we are booking for August right now, later August. This show books quick. But you can book your spot on the show anytime by DMing me. If you would like to bring a friend, we do double interviews. So thank you all very much for being here and for watching and for asking us great questions. And Justin and Danielle, thank you both for being here as well. Real quick before we go, how can we support each of you? And we'll start with Danielle.
I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I have a Facebook page. My website has an email sign up, so you can follow me any of those places, and we'll stay in contact.
So for me, my Instagram has my link. It'll take you to my website. You can get yourself merchandise, find your way to my new hardcover books. Everything you need is in the bio, and if you want war, just stick to the profile.
Thank you both for being here so much. I really enjoyed talking with you both, and good luck on your next publications. We will be there. One True Promotion is here to support you both. You two have a wonderful evening, and we will see you next time.
You as
Awesome.
well, my
Thanks,
friend.
Alec.
I'll see you.
Take care.